Okay, picture this. It's 2010 and you're still in high school. It's the end of the day and you're finally let out of school, but you have a bit of a walk, so you pull up your smartphone and watch a YouTube video on the way. And one of the first people you check out is Ray William Johnson. However, he mentions something near the end of the video about a new music project he's a part of. So you check it out, and immediately you're introduced to your favorite Martian. An interesting concept of a band that's completely animated and virtual. But little did you know that this would just be your first introduction to the wide world of virtual bands. A subject that I've personally been fascinated by for years now. I'm the Watchful One, and today we're going to be looking at the wonderfully animated world of virtual bands. What constitutes a virtual band? Basically any band that uses proxies of characters instead of the actual artists. If that explanation doesn't make sense, trust me it will as the video goes on. So let's start with the very first virtual band, and for that we gotta go all the way back to 1958. A man by the name of Ross Bagdasarian Sr., I think that's how you say it, was on the Ed Sullivan Show promoting his new song, The Witch Doctor Song. And because modern day audio editing recently started becoming a new thing, he decided to do something special for the chorus. When he sang the ooh-ee ooh-ah-ah part, he would speed it up so it would sound much more high pitched than usual. However, everyone made a comment that he sounded like a chipmunk while doing it, so he decided to fully embrace it, and thus created Alvin and the Chipmunks. I did not make any of that up, that is actually where Alvin and the Chipmunks comes from. And yeah, for being the first virtual band, it was definitely rough around the edges, and I don't just mean the singing either. But the pieces for a virtual band were definitely there, like each character in the band having their own personality, and apparently it was enough of a novelty that people ate it up. I'm not joking, the Christmas song spent 4 weeks in #1 and it won 3 Grammys. That's honestly pretty nuts to me. Apparently people really love Chipmunks because it grew up into its own franchise, for better and for worse. Thankfully, we only had to wait another year for another virtual band to start up. And unlike the Chipmunks, this one was based off an already existing property, Archie. First appearing in the Archie comics, aka Life of Archie number 60, the inspiration came to put the Archies in a band of their own after the Monkees were seeing success in their own TV show. And after they appeared in the comic, they brought him to the Archie TV show, which in 1969 led to their biggest and probably best song, Sugar Sugar. And can I just say, it blows my mind that years later this song is still remembered and loved. Like seriously, this still gets played on my local radio station when I'm on my way to work. And it's from a completely virtual made up band, let that sink in. Although this music video is laughably stupid. The hell am I even looking at? But honestly, none of that matters. What matters is that we got a virtual band as early as 1968 and 1969. I guess the point I'm trying to illustrate is that virtual bands have been around for a long ass time. And of the two, I think the Archies is a much better foundation for virtual bands if I'm being totally honest. Not only is the song better, but they actually play their own instruments in the video, you chipmunk cheating bastards. No matter who you prefer though, the foundation was officially placed thanks to these two. You could have bands that didn't exist and were completely animated. But after the Chipmunks and the Archies, it kind of wasn't implemented all that well. Like maybe I just couldn't find anything from my research, but there was nothing after the Archies. In fact, less than that because even the Archies disappeared. Honestly, when it comes to virtual bands, TV shows use this concept a lot more. Now people might say those don't count, but they're still animated and they're still musicians. I'm gonna count it for this video. Plus be honest, when's the next time anyone's gonna talk about anything like this? And besides, when it comes to that concept, there were a ton as far as TV shows with virtual bands. In fact, I'm sure a few have popped into your head right now, and one of the first ones we're gonna talk about is Gem. Yes, it was a show basically created to sell toys like a lot of shows from the 80s, but at the very least, Gem and the Holograms was interesting in that it was a full-blown musical TV show. And I'm not kidding in that because when there were song numbers on the show, they were not just typical song numbers. No, they were full-blown music videos. With the band fully on display, full musical numbers, full singing, effects, the works. You want to talk about making the audience believe in a virtual band? I don't think they did it any better than this at the time. I absolutely could have seen these music videos playing on MTV, I'm not joking. And yeah, the songs are very, very 80s, especially the music videos. The fuck is wrong with her hair? But at the very least, there was honest to god an intense amount of effort into this. And it definitely influenced a lot of shows as suddenly musical TV shows became a thing. Particularly Cartoon Network, which had 2 shows in mind that I can deeply remember from my childhood. The first of which was Puffy Amiyumi. And even if you haven't heard of them, you've definitely heard of their songs. Remember this? That's right, they made the theme song to the original Teen Titans. And apparently they did such a good job, Cartoon Network said, hey, let's give these girls their own show. And they basically did a show in the same vein as Jackie Chan Adventures, taking the actual celebrities and putting them in wacky situations. Okay, so it may have been a little odd of a decision, but at the very least it was still an interesting one. And just like Gem, there were a few full-blown music videos sprinkled in throughout episodes. Only difference was, instead of original songs, they basically used songs from their discography. But as I said, that wasn't the only show on Cartoon Network that was a full-blown musical. The other one was Class of 3000. Real talk, this was my childhood. I used to watch every episode whenever a new one came out. Because put simply, I loved Outkast, I loved Andre 3000, and I loved the humor on the show. Although full disclosure, I might be cheating a little bit on this one since Andre 3000 is in it, but it's not really a full-blown band. However, I'm still gonna count it because 1, Andre is playing a different character than himself on the show, and 2, when's the next time I'm ever gonna talk about this, so cut me some slack. And there is a fair bit I could talk about, the characters, the humor and animation, but we're here to talk about bands and music. So what made Class of 3000 interesting as far as musical TV shows? Well, because every episode had a musical number. And I do mean every single one. Not only that, but unlike Gem, each song was a different genre. From funk to psychedelic to jazz to blues, you name it. It honestly takes crazy mad talent to not only write a full-blown musical number every single episode, but to have each one be a different genre and differently distinct from the last. And yeah, even if some of the songs weren't all that great, I'm looking at you, Piano Solo. The fact that bad songs were the exception and not the rule takes mad talent. And also props to the animators as well, because each music video had different styles of animation to it. Like heavy blue watercoloring for the rich shade of blue, So Hot I'm Cold basically using a very Art Deco style animation, but my favorite has to be the jazz song with that black and white aesthetic. Mwah, beautiful. Shame that the show got cancelled after only 2 seasons, and thankfully it wasn't Cartoon Network's fault this time. No, apparently the show ran into legal trouble, as apparently a comic artist pitched a show very similar, and the following lawsuit blew the studio $2 million. So I guess they figured after this they thought, okay, let's just cancel this show. It is a shame, but at least we can still watch the show, it's not like it's completely gone. Plus it shows if you count TV shows, there's a crap ton of virtual and animated bands out there. Which is good because the actual bands in the early 2000s that were animated were, well...
What's going on?
Yeah, I hate we have to talk about these guys too, but I'll make it quick. In the early 2000s, the world gave us the 2 plagues of animated bands that were Gummy Bear and Crazy Frog. I remember seeing these 2 on MTV being advertised and oh my god, I hated them. Hell, I remember Crazy Frog's XLF being played on Cartoon Network. I wish I was joking, but no, I actually remember them playing on Cartoon Network once. I'll say this though, at least Gummy Bear looks a little better than Crazy Frog as far as design goes. I mean, what even is Crazy Frog? It's not a frog, that's for damn sure. And they gave him a dick. I wish I was joking, but no, he's got a dick. Look, it's right there. And this also dances around the biggest problem with his music. He's fucking annoying. Like, that high-pitched voice does not match the music he's trying to convey, which sucks because the actual remixing is pretty good. I'm serious, if you remove the actual Crazy Frog lyricism from this song, it might be pretty decent. But it doesn't, and it's still there, so it sucks. Now thankfully things would pick up in a few years down the line, but before we do, there's one more animated band I want to talk about. Well, kind of anyway. Because in 2003, Daft Punk of all people got involved in the virtual band craze, and created a virtual band for their own animated movie, Interstellar 555. And their name was the Crescent Dolls. They were a bunch of space aliens that came to Earth to rock and roll. In actuality, the whole movie is just basically the Discover album with music videos. But it's some damn beautiful animation. Toei Animation did this, by the way. Yes, that Toei Animation, the one that made the Dragon Ball Z movies. That's a hell of a choice, but it honestly works. It also helps that the Discovery album itself is really good, so the music is great. And with Daft Punk retired, I think we should appreciate this movie a lot more, so go check it out. I don't really have much else to say about it, I just really wanted to mention it with Daft Punk retiring and everything. So yeah, animated and virtual bands have kind of always been around, even if they kind of dipped around the mid-2000s. But I know some of you want me to talk about the actual bands that tour around and make their own music and stuff, and trust me, we will get to that in a second. But I want to give a quick mention to one more medium that had a virtual musician. And for this, we actually gotta go back a few years to the 90s. And funny enough, this virtual musician basically created rhythm games. Yes, I'm talking about Parappa the Rapper. When I say it was the very first rhythm game, I'm not joking because up until this point, rhythm games were not a thing. Heck, even Sony struggled with how they were going to market this since, well, it never existed before. Thankfully, the game turned out to be a massive success, and as good as the game is, the sequel might be even better. They sell out on the PlayStation 4, so I recommend getting it. It's honestly a lot of fun. Sure, neither of them have many songs, but he basically invented rhythm games. Respect your roots. But okay, I'm dragging this out at this point, let's get to the actual virtual bands. Because as time rolled on into the early 2010s, we actually got a huge resurgence of animated bands. Because in 2011, almost 10 years ago, we got the internet sensation that was Your Favorite Martian. At the time, the most subscribed to music channel that wasn't a Vimeo account. And yeah, it dealt with a lot of comedic, very crude songs, and the animation was especially crude, but there was honestly a charm to it that really wasn't captured by any band ever. But that wasn't the end of it, as 1 year later there were 2 more animated bands, and one of them was another internet-based one known as Salvonic, a heavy synth-pop inspired band by Mr. Weebles. Wait, Mr. Weebles? Badger and Narwhal's song, Mr. Weebles? So let me get this straight. This
Look at my horse.
led to this.
I stole your keys cause you stole my heart. It seems like a fair trade to me.
Huh, who knew? In any case, they only have 2 albums, but they were both kickstarted by their fans. One's called Red, which is very heavily synth-pop, and one is called Neon, which is very 80s synth-pop. I listened to both in preparation for this video, and while Neon isn't as good as Red, they are still both very solid albums. I'll put a link to some of my favorite songs as well as a lot of the other links I'm showing throughout this in the description below. If you haven't already seen them, please give them a watch. They deserve much more attention. Thankfully, the other band I want to talk about has gotten a lot more attention in recent years, and well deserved. I'm of course talking about Studio Killers. You might know them from TikTok because their song Jenny got very popular on it, but honestly they deserve a lot more attention than just TikTok. Because they probably have some of, if not the best music videos I'm going to talk about in this whole video. I mean, just look at Ode to the Bouncer. This is a beautifully, visually stunning music video, and it was released nearly 10 years ago. That's insane. Be honest, would you even guess this was released 10 years ago? Odds are probably not because of how good it looks. And that's not even their only visually stunning music video. They honestly all look good. But here's the kicker. No one knows who actually makes the music. Oh sure, we know about the characters, Cherry, Goldie Fox, and Dane Mink, but we don't actually know who the musicians are. The only one we know for sure is the animator, and that's it. And to me, the fact that we don't know who the musicians are kind of adds to one of the major reasons why I love virtual bands in the first place. If you don't know who it actually is and you focus on the personas in the music videos, it's less about the musician and more about the songs they make. Now sure, there are plenty of pop musicians that can have both, like Lady Gaga, can still be a cult of personality while still making great songs, but more than anyone else, I think virtual bands in general have this in spades. And Studio Killers make it their mission to not reveal who they actually are, and it helps to the illusion. I like to akin it to stage magic, where you know it's not real, you know there's a musician behind that music, but they do such a good job selling the illusion that you buy that they're actually there, that it's their personalities, not the person. So instead of focusing on, say, the normal-ass singer playing Cherry, you can focus on Cherry's personality, the pansexual black belt who beats up the bouncer and has a crush on Jenny. It's all about the personality of the persona and the music. And if you want personality, there's one more virtual musician that comes to mind, and I've saved the best for last. Because if you want something that's all about the music and all about the persona, you can't get any better than Hatsune Miku. When Miku was first created, she was basically marketed as a near-future android where music was lost to the world. However, there's one thing that sets Miku apart from all the other bands we've mentioned. She has no singer. Miku is a program known as a Vocaloid, which is basically a voice synthesizer. In the simplest term possible, you just type in the lyrics and adjust pitch and audio tune, and she sings it for you.
このように、なり始めるわけです。次に歌詞をこのまま入力しましょう。はい。
And again, there's a lot more that goes into it, but that's the most simplistic version I can give you. Which, another fun fact, Hatsune Miku's name is actually based off the Japanese words meaning first, sound, and future. So literally her name is the first sound of the future. I just thought that was a nice little fun fact. But the point I'm trying to make by saying that she has no real musician or singer and that she's just a vocal program is the fact that despite all of that, she has personality for days and people love her. You see, when they were first designing Miku's actual appearance, her manga artist Kel Garo basically designed her but didn't give her a personality. He only gave the bare bones of her basic designs like the kind of music she plays, her height and her weight and all that stuff. By doing this, they smartly make it so that fans and musicians can basically project whoever they want onto Hatsu. And they absolutely did, allowing her to be so versatile and free to be whoever she wants to be. And with such a varied personality, it allows people to latch onto her extremely well. And people have latched onto her. People absolutely adore her, attend her concerts, and don't give a shit that she's not real. When she talks to the crowd, people respond back. People get energized. I dare say VTubers would not have been a thing without Miku. But the craziest part is that despite not being real, she is absolutely treated as real as can be. She gets interviewed, heck, she even had a sponsorship from Dominos. This is a real commercial, people, I'm not joking.
Excuse me, what?
From the menu to the order, it looks very cute, just like Miku.
You are technically correct.
Once your pizza's delivered, have some fun with Miku.
I'll leave it in the description. Heck, in 2014, Pharrell Williams of all people made a remix of Last Night Good Night with her, and she was even on David Letterman. Let that sink in. Elvis Presley, the Beatles, Rolling Stones all performed in the same theater Hatsune Miku performed.
Very much. Thank you so much. Thank you. Hatsune Miku, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you. Okay. There she is.
Life's confusing when you grow up.
He was even supposed to be at Coachella, one of the largest musical gatherings in the world last year. Unfortunately, then the virus happened. Poor Miku. Hopefully when they reopen Coachella, she'll get another chance. But none of that matters. That's my point. She is less real than any of the other bands I've described today, and yet she's treated just as real as any of them. And to me, Miku represents everything I love about virtual musicians, making it about the music and projecting a personality you want onto them. And whether it's studio killers, Salvonic, Your Favorite Martian, TV show ones like Gem and the Holograms or Josie and the Pussycats, or even the early and bad ones like the Archies and Crazy Frog. In the end, for virtual musicians, it's all about the actual music. And I'm so glad we're getting more of them, because all that and for many more reasons is the real reason why I love the animated world of virtual musicians. But wait, I hear you saying, realizing the video is almost over? Aren't you forgetting someone? Aren't you forgetting the quintessential virtual band? The one that all other virtual bands aspire to be? Well, yes, but also no. I haven't forgotten them. But we're not talking about them in this video. No, that's a topic that deserves its own video. So 2 weeks from now, be sure to join me for my next video where I talk about the quintessential virtual band. The quintessential animated band. The one that all other virtual bands are measured by and still talked about to this day. And one that is still loved in making music. And I think you know who I'm talking about.